So we had debates this week. Now, I had a lot of thoughts on the debates. I didn't watch much of them because I can only stomach a few minutes at a time. But what was more interesting was everyone's reaction to the debates. So, Trump Biden, most people tuned out. Some tuned in because it was their team playing. And the rest of us, I think, really watched out of a sense of morbid curiosity, like a car wreck. Was anyone going to punch the bully in the face? Was the bully going to make the old man crumble? Biden, in my opinion, failed, but Trump lost because COVID is literally in our face and a bully is not going to cut it this time. Now, Harris and Pence, the only thing I heard coming out of it was the let me talk moment. Now, I understand, and of course, not fully being a man, but that women are often belittled and discounted, and moments like that moment that Harris had feels like you won the argument. And I understand that feeling, but symbolism above all else is the bad kind of cynicism. I don't want a more diverse board of slave masters. In fact, it's easier to defeat them if they all looked and act like Trump. What were people expecting from the debates? That Trump would somehow have empathy or act presidential when he has proven time and again that that wouldn't happen? Were they expecting Biden would have a plan when all along he's promised nothing will change and actually worked against all those policies you believed in throughout his career? When it comes to voting, it's easy to think my vote doesn't count. Chicago will go blue no matter what I do. I am one vote and I don't have a large pool of influence. And no matter who gets elected, my voice to me feels like it still won't be heard. So the better question is, what does my vote actually count for? Switching back and forth between Democrats and Republicans in my vote, well, that can and is misinterpreted. Not voting enables the elites to do whatever they want. They know they can get away with it. It's amazing that I only recently figured out that I actually didn't have to vote to fill out the top of the ticket. I can vote, but not for them. I can show them that I am interested, but not in them. And if they want me, they have to win me. So it comes back to my choice and what I expect my choice is. Is it more than a binary choice? Voting is the least you can do and is the first thing you do. We know that banks are corrupt and not our allies, but yet we still bank with them. We know that corporate media is corrupt and has an agenda that goes against our own, yet we still turn to them. We know politics corrupts, but we still follow politicians. We know money is the root of all evil, but we still give ours to the evilest among us. We've all seen the cycle of lesser of evilism, but we still submit to it. We all know that actual change can come from mass movements, and that nothing of value comes without sacrifice, and that power concedes nothing without demand. Yet we all still feel powerless. Join a credit union. Stop shopping, join a neighborhood group, find independent media, start a tool sharing collective or a local garden club, or harvest rainwater and solar power. Look at every aspect of your life, decide if it's necessary, and if it is, how can you have ownership in it? We have to stop acting like baseball fans, or more accurately, wrestling fans, because it's not about belonging, it's about getting what you need. We have to stop acting like consumers in politics. You are not a Democratic or Republican Party member, you're a customer. Well, the Coke versus Pepsi narrative is theirs, and they don't want you to think you can buy something else, or even worse, start making it on your own. What are people expecting of campaigns and elections and presidents? What are they expecting of their vote?
What you present is a dilemma that I face here in Kentucky every time there's a national vote, because this is a pretty solidly red state. And I don't think I've voted for a winner very often here, except in a congressional race. So I don't know. I've chosen third party candidates in the past. This time around, what I wish I could do was vote against Donald Trump without voting for Joe Biden. I don't, that's what I'd really like to express is I want to vote against him. If I could change the election laws, I would have the negatives count as well as the positives. So you could vote somebody like Mitch McConnell down rather than supporting somebody else. So
that brings me to the thing. I'm still just amazed. I never figured this out, that you don't actually have to fill in the presidential section.
no, you don't have to fill in any section. No.
The good analysis is when they include the people who didn't vote the top of the ticket, and that's usually in terms of, this county went a certain way. They voted in their Republican congressman, but the majority of people didn't vote for president. So what does that say? Again, you have to tune into independent media for that kind of thing, because the corporate media is not going to express any will of the people. They're going to express whatever the horse race was.
No. I think in every case, there should be some way to form groups of people. It's not quite like having an open party system where you have lots of political parties, but there should be groups who band together independently. You have unions and other groups that support candidates. Well, I'd like to see more. If it's the Green Party, rather than proposing your own candidate, which you're never going to win in a national race on the third party, but you could demand what you were asking for, which is you got to earn our vote. So who is this group going to recommend? And I think there should be thousands of those groups. They should be based on very specific interests, but somehow bound together in a way that allows us to see who's voting which way. If I see that all of far right wing lunatics are supporting somebody, that's going to cause me not to. On the other hand, if I see somebody I respect, that may cause it as well.
Yeah, I think you're desiring a codification of what happened informally, even recently, not too recently, of you had unions making recommendations, and you had various media outlets, different media outlets making recommendations, and you had parent groups and civic groups and all these things, and we've traded all these things in for cable news.
Right.
So we used to have that. Now I would like to go further and really establish fusion ticket voting.
Yeah.
So this is every issue you do a ranked choice, and the most populous fuse to one ticket.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to more ballot questions, because people are starting to understand that the ruling elite don't want to give up their power, so they have to take it. So it's these ballot questions that are important to, no matter if you're left or right or any of that, having confident and representative voting is important. So you could phrase it, all the fusion ticketing is a bit much, so maybe just ranked choice voting, maybe proportional districts, maybe a public debate commission. All of the ruling party in the state gets to determine what order of questions on the ballot and how they're asked. So that process in itself is rigged. So we need ballot questions to free up the process to put questions on, that kind of thing. So
one of the things that you were discussing was the debates themselves. And what we've seen are really not debates. They're I'll share my bullet points and you share yours. And what I would like to see among for each candidate is we have an interest group. For instance, I would like for people whose primary concern is climate science to hold a debate where each of the candidates was asked very specific questions
Right.
and had to supply answers. After that issue has been, what I would like to see is if someone who represented, let's say, the client science community, people who were primarily concerned with that, held a debate, and each candidate had an opportunity to ask or to answer specific questions related to climate. They would do that, record it, and after that, we wouldn't talk about it anymore in the campaign. If that's your concern, every candidate should be on record. Okay, so let's discuss that issue thoroughly, not call each other names and not, make wild claims about what the other thinks. Just have a chance to have each candidate explain it clearly, but do it with a moderator who's not going to let them get away with dodging the question or just avoiding the issue. They're going to have to come up with answers to very specific questions that they're asked. All right, and then we could do the same thing on healthcare. We could do the same thing on taxes, on foreign policy, whatever it might be. But if you lay out 10 forums and each candidate went on record as to answering the tough questions, and it should be left and right too. You might have the pro-life people asking somebody a question. All right, fine. But after that, quit talking about it. We spend too much time going over the same points over and over and over again. You never get any depth of discussion. So
well, you're getting to kind of the root of the problem is the moderators themselves. Now, this is a big thing about corporate news that people are slowly starting to realize. It's not that the moderator has an agenda. It's not that they are completely biased for the corporation. It's that anyone who was ever biased against the corporation doesn't get that platform.
Right.
They're hired because they fit a certain style, and that's what you get. Now, combine this with what you were talking about. I don't mind the debates for purposes of getting YouTube clips for sharing later. I don't mind that. But getting which questions is going to be asked, it's not fair. It's elites telling us what the questions really should be. What I want is everyone ask all of their questions and then their ranked choice voted. And then those are the questions that are asked, and you use a debate forum it's not your campaign video, because every campaign website has the questions and their answers, but they're not challenged. So it's what are the actual questions of the voters, not the media companies, and let's put the candidates through the ringer on these.
Yeah.
And then, you can cover it and then move on.
Trevor Noah did a funny routine after the Harris and Pence debate, where he said the premise was like a game show of what was the question, and it showed Mike Pence's answer, and then had a choice of options of what was the question. And I'll get a clip of that and put it in right here so you can see what that's like. But you do have candidates who don't answer the question. It seems to be both in debates and in interviews on television. Someone asks them a question and they don't feel any obligation to answer the question. They just respond in whatever way they want, or are you for Medicare for all? Well, I think that the hurricanes are coming more frequently. It's like, wait a minute, the follow-up question, and holding people accountable, not letting them get by with that.
There's no price for them to pay.
Right. Well, maybe we should score the debates. Have a live scoring system. Have an impartial panel of Lithuanians and
they do
Greeks.
This with focus groups. They do this with the focus groups where you have the dial. All right. Well, just make it a public dial.
Yeah.
Oh. The things I'm noticing too, it's there's an underlying current of I call it consumerism, where it's not about what you're wanting, it's not about democratic participation. It's we're falling into the narratives and we're buying what they're selling and we're thinking those are the only things that
Mhm.
are available. But no, those are the only things they want available.
Right. That you're,
And these elections have to be about us,
mhm,
not them.
mhm. Right.
So, and there's also the team component. This comes back to the debate of like the thing I heard was you know, the let her talk moment, right?
Mhm.
Or let me talk moment, right? And I get it that's this thing that needs to be discussed, but when I was hearing people react, if you take the words out and just get the vibe they're sending, it felt like they were baseball fans
Mhm.
and you participated in the debates because your team was playing, not because you had an agenda and you had a desire and a need.
Mhm.
You just followed your team, and it doesn't matter what your team was doing as long as it's your team.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
I guess that
Wow.
could be good, but the team, yeah, we're not on it. It's a big club, and we're not members.
Right. Right. It's the Democratic Party, but you're not invited.
Right. So I want people to expect more. Like what we expect is very disheartening because I don't see people expecting a lot,
Mhm.
and I don't know why.
Well, one of the things that will be interesting with regard to, I think one of the most significant things coming out of the COVID pandemic is Zoom. I
Yeah.
think it's what you hear people talking about more than Facebook or Twitter or anything else. It's the ability to engage in a meaningful conversation with someone from a distance. I prefer it in many ways to meeting with a group in person. I think I mentioned I meet with a group of friends once a week,
Right.
and we've been doing Zoom meetings now since March, I guess. And the discussions are more meaningful. Now, there's a lot lost in that,
Right.
admittedly. I can't get them to buy me a beer for one thing, but the the thing that's gained is something where you're kind of forced to listen to
Right.
everybody, and when you respond, people are forced to listen to you, and I think it's a good thing. So
I would
uh,
add you also visibly have a place.
yeah, yeah.
You can see your place in the discussion because that's your little box there. And
All right. Well,
get it, get me.
any if you have any parting words here, now's the time. But I'm looking forward. What are you interested in talking about next week?
Oh, who knows what's going to happen this week? So,
It could be.
I'm getting more interested in. Uh, I always feel like I'm 10 steps ahead of everybody, and not because I'm particularly smart, just because putting up a graphic. I don't know if that's even a good idea or not, but just throwing it out there.
Well, it is a good idea. I don't like this part about this background where
I kind of like to, yeah,
it disappears and your head it
yeah.
doesn't mask.
Mine with my beard, it keeps flipping.
Well,
I kind of like
it's
to
trying to
not.
mask it, and if you don't have a green screen, it doesn't do such a good job of it. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right, man.
All right.
Have a
That's cool.
have a great week. We got, don't forget today's Autumn's birthday.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye bye.